Diary of a Kraut Man. Dear Britannia, I think I finally understand why at any point in history things get a little tricky. Your descendants are jumping back into your lap, among other places. Britain's history is not as universally revered as, for example, the history of my country of birth. You know it as Teutonia, Krautenheim, Tankland, where the Huns roam free, guzzling beer, winning football games, and praying to the almighty Bratwurst. Germans cannot go back in time and have their poll smoked by misty-eyed, gold-plated history, which is what you seem to do every single time the going gets a little tough. Rule Britannia, stiff upper lip, keep calm and carry on. Those are slogans so beaten up as 11 lions were against mighty Iceland. Changez le disque. Fine, I will lend you a hand, one finger at a time. You do have more recent history to actually be proud of. 1950s, Cockerell invents the hovercraft. 60s, you were pop music central. 70s, had a female PM, genetically at least. The 80s, you let Argentina have a win. In the 90s, Berners-Lee invents the internet. In the arts, you netted your first Ashes win in 20 years, and in the 10s, Salzman invented swearobics. And. However, to cherish your present, you must accept your past, and yours is so replete with horrendous acts, it is as easy as pointing at fish in a barrel. We have to warm up first before we take the pitch. Let us stretch that history into the present and start with a scorecard update on the centuries-old game Britain against everyone. There was the 2016 England football famine, no field goal against soccer giant Iceland. There was also the 2016 voting famine, where 13 million did not cast their ballots in the referendum. Of course, there was also the 2015 exit poll famine, with Britons providing no nutritional information on their general election votes. Adding to that, the 2015 voting famine, where 15.7 million people did not cast a ballot in the general election. Impressive, and at the same time utterly repulsive. Adding to a tally of famines with a body count Stalin and Mao cannot even touch. There is no doubt that the Austrian painter started World War II and deserves the majority of blame. However, his itchy trigger finger was not the only one involved, and that makes someone else the number one killer in the history of the world. Das perfide Albion. You shall be damned if you did not try your worst best, as for example the Great Famine in Ireland from 1845 until 1852, where at least 1 million people died and another million fled the country. That is 20 to 25% of Ireland gone, half of which dead by your hands. Do you understand why Europe at the very least hesitates trusting you enlisting every agent, expert, diplomat and negotiator at the lookout's call. No, of course you do not. Your kingdom is about to deunite because your elites are behaving like the kings you all still fantasize being. Ireland literally had to pick up its pieces and corpses first before telling you to fuck off first and making said fucking off official in 1922, and what a splendidly peaceful process it was. Northern Ireland voted leave, will they? Scotland also voted leave. A sitting Prime Minister said, "We held on in Scotland," after his party won one, that is one, constituency out of 57. The Tories held on in Scotland like William Wallace's testicles held on to his body. The good news, you get to keep Wales and its abundance of consonants. During your empire, as you still choose to call it instead of, for example, the period of shame, the dark times, or good golly, what were we smoking, or far more appropriate to your centuries-long rape of every continent except Antarctica, you have made it absolutely clear you will stop at nothing. Other countries behaved like fully paid up members of the cunt club too. Not only is that classic war criminal whataboutism, it is also a fallacy of false equivalence. See, a cunt kneels you in the groin, sleeps with your spouse, or heats tuna in the break room. Everything you did to the people of this world went way past cuntishness ages ago. Are you all comfortably foaming at the mouth? And I shall begin. One more thing. One does hate to be a stickler, but if the financial sector adjusts for inflation, the same shall apply to death tolls. Splendid. Example. Opening fire on unarmed Emirates protesters in 1999 left 1,000 dead and 500 more wounded. Not the 379 dead and 1,200 wounded the murderer pulled out of his ass. The above numbers would equate to roughly 4,000 dead and 2,000 wounded, given that the world population has quadrupled since then. The same process puts the Irish famine death toll to a spine-chilling 6.5 million, with another inflation-adjusted 6.5 million fleeing the country. Ireland has 7.2 million inhabitants today. The following is a top 5 list only. Horrors cramp up my mind, and after a while its output may be limited. The death toll takes the highest estimates and translates them into 24 numbers. The Chalisa famine, 1783 and 84. The 1783 world population was 860 million. Under British rule, 11 million people, 1.3% of the entire world, perished in this famine. The death toll in 2024 numbers would be 104 million. It's impossible for words to describe what is necessary to those who do not know what horror means. Horror. Horror has a face, and you must make a friend of horror. Horror and moral terror are your friends. If they are not, then they are enemies to be feared. They are truly enemies. The Doji Bara famine, 1791 and 92. People died in such numbers they could not be cremated or buried. The death toll was 11 million. 1790 world population was 900 million. Thus, under British rule, 1.2% of the world perished in this famine. Death toll in 24 numbers would be 99 million. The horror. The Great Bengal Famine, 1769 and 70. Why was there a famine in the first place? The British East India Company ordered farmers to grow opium for export to China and East London. The 1769 world population was 820 million. Under British rule, 10 million people, 1.2% of the entire world, perished in this famine. The death toll in 2024 numbers would be 99 million. The horror. The Indian famine, 1896 and 97. The 1895 world population was 1.5 billion. Under British rule, 16 million people, 1.1% of the entire world, perished in this famine. The death toll in 2024 numbers would be 86 million. The horror. The Great Famine, 1876 to 1878. The 1875 world population was 1.35 billion. Under British rule, 10 million people, 0.74% of the entire world, perished in this famine. The death toll in 2024 numbers would be 60 million. On the orders of Lord Lytton, crops were exported and a subcontinent prone to famines was thrown into another British-made catastrophe. The horror. The Shoah left a bone-chilling and mind-blowing 6 million Jewish people dead, adding 250,000 victims from operations such as Aktion T4, and all 73 million dead from World War II, the death toll at the hands of the Nazis in 2024 numbers is 279.1 million. Court and bold bollocks. Your mascot Harry might wear Nazi garb to provoke, to rebel, or simply for the lulz. Everyone, press and pleb, lunges at the oh-so low-hanging fruit for the clicks, for the money, for the influence, and, of course, for the lulz. Years later, a sitting prime minister harumphes at giving back stolen goods, and nobody gives a shit. The obligatory harmless backlash, like chastising a child for using a bad word, and that was it, vis-a-vis accountability. David Cameron's returnism is so middle of the road in a country locked into its monarchy, it does not even appear on his Wikipedia page. Britain's entire elite is still thick as thieves. when it comes to facing any kind of responsibility for its actions, a gentleman's code is nowhere to be found. Sportsmanship is reserved for important things such as cricket and fox hunting, after all. When it comes to politics, especially foreign politics, the UK suddenly is all about gamesmanship, bowling at people's heads, loading civilian ships with weapons, counting non-goals as goals, firebombing defenseless cities, mowing down pesky protesters and billing them for the bullets, because you have been getting away with it.